welcome back to Third Shot Podcast. We have another exciting episode in store for you, and we have part 2 of the wedding shenanigans and honeymoon that followed. So we're going to get into that. But before we do, please, as always, head on over to our social media, Instagram and Facebook at Third Shot Podcast, also on X at Third Shot Pod. Or you can check out our website, thirdshotpodcast.com, where you can find all of our previous episodes, blog posts, and some very special Third Shot apparel. Uncle Greg.
Brigie.
You ready for this? Cheers.
It's funny you said shenanigans about the honeymoon, and I'm like, all right, let's hear. Oh, I don't want to hear too much. The shenanigans.
It's a family show over here.
Oh yes, family show. Yeah. So tell everybody, where did you go for your honeymoon?
So we hit up 3 different locations. We went to Japan first, then Thailand, and then on the way home, we stopped in Hawaii just for a few days and kind of just ease our way back into the States and the time zones and the time changes and everything. So in Japan, we did do a few of the different cities, and same thing in Thailand. So first, we flew to San Francisco like 2 days after the wedding. So right after we finished, it was like boom, 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 like unload everything from the wedding, decorations, put stuff back in order, pack everything up, and we were out the door. It was super fast right after.
Wow. So you
Yeah.
went to San Francisco to fly straight to Japan?
Yes. So it was from Vegas to San Francisco. And we got to go into the Japan Airlines lounge. I'd never been in an airport lounge before, so that was very exciting and so luxurious. And we had, I think it was like a 4 or 5 hour layover, so it was perfect. We got to rest and order anything on the menu. That was like, I felt like such a princess. It's like, oh, just order that and order some champagne and some snacks. And it was really, really nice.
So
And
in
then
Japan Airlines Lounge, is it Japanese food or is it all types of food?
no, so I think I'm not sure on how airport lounges work, but it was like Virgin
Okay.
Airlines lounge that like partners with Japan Airlines. So
Okay.
they did have a few kind of like Japanese-esque items on there, like
Mhm.
things like yakitori, like chicken yakitori, and like a ramen. But
Okay.
other than that, they just had like regular food.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice. Nice. I know. Those airport lounges are fantastic.
that's the
Here's a,
way to go.
here's a little secret. Most people think you have to be a member of some airline points or a credit card or something like that to get in lounges. But in some airports, you can actually go to the airport website and buy a day pass to get into the lounge.
I
And the
did
day passes are, whatever, $50. I don't know, just different prices for different different airports. But you can get into a lounge without being a member somewhere. If you have like a 5 hour layover and you just need something to do and you want to relax and you want to eat and have a drink or whatever, it's probably worth the $50.
Oh, for sure. You like, I think with all of your traveling, you could have a whole episode on like travel hacks and tips and tricks because
Right.
that would be great. Just because there's showers in there too, if you're traveling for multiple days in a row or whatever it is, like that's the way to do it for sure.
That's the way to go. Okay, so now you get to Japan, and
Yes.
are you spending the first part in Tokyo?
Yep, we flew into NRT, which is kind of just outside Tokyo, and our first transportation there was by train. And you had kind of gave us a heads up on how intricate their train system is, and it is so nice to use, but chaotic when you don't know what the heck's going on. Like I'm not a public transportation type of person. I've been, very fortunate to have a car. Um, So this was definitely a learning curve, but they do make it easy for you to understand. And I was really surprised at how easy it is to not know any Japanese, but be able to communicate with everybody and to get everything you need because there's kiosks and you can change the language to English. So that made it super easy and kind of lowered my anxiety as far as
Yeah.
how the trip was going to go.
How long was the train ride from the airport to your hotel or around the hotel?
I cannot remember, but I think it was about an hour or
Yeah,
2,
yeah.
um, and
So
then we took a taxi.
did I ever tell you the story about the train ride from the airport to our hotel in Japan?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh. So, it's a long flight to Japan, right? We got all our luggage, we get on the train, and we're going to, Osaka, where our first stop was, and, we're tired. So, your auntie falls asleep, right? My 2 daughters are asleep, and I'm kinda, like, barely hanging on, and I see that all of a sudden we got to our stop after like an hour, hour and a half train ride. We get to our stop and it kind of caught me off guard. And I go, "Hey, you guys, wake up! We got to get off here, right?" So Sydney very alertly grabs her bag, goes out the door. I'm trying to get Auntie, I'm trying to get Amanda going, and the door closes, and Sydney's out on the platform, and we're inside the train still.
No.
So I look at her through the window and I go, "Stay there, don't move." I'm trying to mouth it, right? And she gives me the nod, "Okay, okay, okay." So we have to go to the next station, loop back around, find her, and it's one of those huge stations where there's
Oh
multiple
gosh.
levels and everything like that. So we're in a panic, right? We're trying to find our daughter in Japan, in a different country, in this humongous train station, but luckily she stayed where she was supposed to stay. We found her, and
You got it.
that was the start of our Japanese vacation.
Oh my gosh, that is wild. But I can totally understand how easily that could happen because of how fast the transition time is for the when the train stops to people getting off and then people coming back on. Like
Yeah,
it's
they're on
maybe
schedule, right? Boom, boom,
yes.
boom. Yes.
It's maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, it feels like, that you have that amount of time to, like, get off or to for people to transition on, so if you were just slowly waking up and trying to grab bags, like, I
Yeah,
see why.
yeah.
Totally.
Okay, so what did you do? What was the first kind of things you did while you were in Tokyo?
So we stayed at a hotel that had a Japanese garden, which was
Oh,
so beautiful. And there was a koi pond, a tea house, like a ceremonial tea house. So we kind of explored there first. And then we went walking through Tokyo and we went to the Harajuku district.
yeah.
It was so cool to see that.
All the
And
style they got in the Harajuku district, right?
yes. And that was really packed though. Everywhere else, I think it's just like the main touristy areas. Then we went to what is that Shibuya crossing with like
Mhm.
that
Yep.
really famous intersection that they have with the
The
big
biggest intersection in the world, right? The most people cross that intersection anywhere in the world.
yeah, it was really, really big. And then there was just tons and tons of shopping to do over there. We I think we were only there for 3 days, but we got in on one of the days. So it was basically only 2 days that went there. And then one of our full days we spent at Disney Sea,
Oh,
which
yeah.
was highly recommended. There's Disney Tokyo. And for those listening who have been to Disneyland, it's kind of a similar setup how California Adventure is literally like within walking distance just across the park. So
Mhm.
they've got a huge tram system. You can either get off at Disney Tokyo, which is their Disneyland, or continue on to Disney Sea, and that was incredible. And we accidentally timed it just right for their food and drink
Oh.
festival.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So every food stall that they had like a seasonal food festival type of item on it, and I feel like that whole experience was just like walking and eating almost because I wanted to try everything.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
rides were just as great too. They were pretty similar to Disneyland rides, but maybe with like a slightly different theme.
Yeah,
Um,
Disney Sea has a completely unique theme that none of the other parks of Disney has anywhere in the world. It's a
yeah,
kind of a standalone thing.
it's so cool. They've got like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and instead of like the Dumbo ride, they have Aladdin's Magic Carpet ride, but it looks just like the Dumbo one, but magic carpets instead. So it was really cool to kind of like see the differences, but also kind of point out some of those similarities.
Disney
Um,
Sea is my favorite Disney park.
oh, really?
It is. Yeah.
Did
I've
you
been
have
to all
the
the Disney World parks, all the Disneyland parks, and then the two Disney Tokyo and Disney Sea. And Disney Sea is my favorite.
and don't you think it's incredible how they have an entire volcano? Like it's a huge volcano, and then you can walk to the other side of it, and it looks like you're in a crater.
Yeah.
I it, like, it's
It's mind blowing.
incredible. Yes, it doesn't even feel like you're in an amusement park, like,
Yeah.
you're transported to a whole other world.
Now, did you see couples like matchy matchy wearing same outfits?
Okay, so I kind of had like thought that we would see a lot of it, but we didn't. But I
Oh,
I made Rahul um, kind of do a little matchy matchy. Like we bought Mickey Mouse shirts. They didn't match exactly, but we both had on Mickey Mouse shirts, and we had on these like um, tube socks that had a little picture of Mickey Mouse on it. But we did see a ton of school kids. So when we were taking the tram, I don't know. We were going to ask one of them if they were like ditching school or if it was like a field trip, but there was this like mass amounts of high school maybe aged kids
okay.
there in their uniforms.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was why it was on a Friday, so we're like, maybe they're ditching school and going to Disney Sea. We
Yeah.
would have done that for sure.
When you were just walking around Tokyo, did you see like young children walking by themselves to school?
Yeah, so I think I like shouted in one of the train stations because they were so cute. Like I had to hit Rahul and I was like, because they have on these little like sun hats almost with the strap that goes under their chin, and they've got their sweet little outfit like school uniforms on and their book bag or their square backpacks, and they know exactly where to go in the train station, and they stick together, and it's just the cutest thing ever.
Yeah. And I think it's wonderful that the culture is so safe that kids can just take the trains at like, elementary school ages, go wherever they need to go to school, come back, and they don't need, supervision because, everybody's safe there. The kids are safe there.
Yeah, that is really, really nice to see, and, just them walking on the streets. The culture is so different too, and, we didn't see a lot of cell phone use from, like, young kids. Another difference that we noticed too at Disney Sea was all of the, males would, like, be in one group together, and all the females would be in another group, and they didn't like there was hardly any, like, intermixed groups of
Interesting.
students. I'm like, I wonder why that is.
We noticed that at restaurants. That we
Oh,
rarely saw families together at a restaurant. We would see people, on breaks from work at all times of the day, eating
right.
by themselves or eating with coworkers, but very rarely like, parents with their children all eating together at a restaurant. We almost never saw it in 2 weeks in Japan.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, I don't think we saw that either. The only families was, they look like tourists or visitors.
Right, right.
Maybe they all just eat at home or they don't go to these tourist areas where we're at. But yeah, I never even that didn't cross my mind when I was there.
It was very interesting about that the culture. It's just different, right? You go to a restaurant in America, you see families all over the place.
Yeah, and their idea of fast food is so different than ours. It's literally just fast food. It's not quality of food because the quality of their food is amazing, but
Yes.
it is fast. And I love that you can order your food before from a kiosk. You get a ticket, you hand it to the staff there, they bring you your food, and then when you're done, you've already paid, so you just get to get up and leave.
and no tipping, right? No tipping is allowed
Right.
in Japan
Yeah.
because good service is expected and you don't need to tip for it.
Yes. We loved it. And gosh, I could go on and on about the food there, but I know we don't have all the time for
I
that.
know we got to bring on our guests, and I'm super excited. But I got to ask you, what was your favorite meal in Japan?
Oh, hands down the sushi. Everywhere we went, it was just fresh sushi, and I could probably eat that every day, every meal.
Yeah, I agree.
Can't beat
But
it.
it's very diverse. They have a lot of good food in Japan. It's not just
They
sushi,
do.
right? They have,
That's so stereotypical.
yeah, like their ramen's great. Their Japanese spaghetti, right? They have their own version of spaghetti. I mean, the katsu. I mean, everything is just amazing in Japan. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
so happy. Well, we haven't even gotten to the rest of your honeymoon yet, so maybe there's a part
Part
three
3.
that people need to hang on for. Part three, because there's more exciting stuff that happened on the rest of your honeymoon. So we will get to it on our next episode of Third Shot. And this will give us an opportunity to thank everybody for joining us and going on to our social media, which is Facebook and Instagram. Look up Third Shot Podcast. If you're on X, Third Shot Pod. YouTube is where you get to see all of the cool guests that we have on, and you're definitely going to want to check out our guests tonight. On Third Shot Podcast, look us up on YouTube. And let's bring on our guests. We got Ashley Underwood and Craig Coyne. They are the producers and director of Dreambreaker, a pickleball story, a new documentary that has just come out. And we highly encourage you to go check it out. But let's bring on Ashley and Craig to talk a little bit about it. Ashley, Craig, welcome to Third Shot Podcast.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
We're super excited to start talking about Dream Breakers and hear what went on behind the scenes. But before we get into it, we're going to do a little toast to Ashley and Craig and Dream Breakers, a pickleball story.
Hey, congratulations. And Craig, also congratulations on your second born. Cheers to that.
Thank you. Yeah, take some shots for that. It'll make it easier, maybe.
Well, both of you have had some amazing careers this far, but to save some time, can you just catch us up on the highlights and share with our audience what you all have done in your past?
Sure. You want me to go first? I'll go first. Before this documentary, a lot of my experience, I had worked with Sacha Baron Cohen on a lot of products like Who is America, Borat's subsequent movie film, as like a field producer and then a co-producer. This is my first film that I've produced or co-produced with Craig. And we got the money for it. Craig found the story. He introduced me to some of the great people that you meet in the film. This is my first time directing a film. Selling a film, helping, compose a film, hiring like a crew and a team of people. I like to refer to it as I was like, oh, this is like, I was like, oh, I went to film school for 2.5 years. Like this is, it's learning on the job. So that's a little bit of my background.
Yeah, so I was much more of a writer prior to this, screenwriting, and then I'd started to do some print journalism. And it was actually my first piece for Vanity Fair, which was on pickleball, actually. And in the course of researching and working on that, Ashley and I met, and she already had a little money set aside to make essentially a proof of concept for a documentary about pickleball. And we really got chatting about what that could look like, what story within the greater space of pickleball might be worth exploring in a doc. But it was my first time producing a film, and likewise, I really feel like I went to film school and earned some maybe grudging appreciation for producers after being a writer for a long time, and certainly learned from Ashley the doggedness it requires to get something made and out there.
Well, the two of you did a fantastic job learning as you went, because the end product was fantastic. We were Bridgie and I were talking before, and we were both glued to it. Like we couldn't leave. Like, you know, sometimes when you're watching a doc or you're watching a movie and you kind of take a break in the middle, we couldn't turn it off. Like we had to go straight through. We got our popcorn, we had our shots, we were ready to go. So I'm curious, actually, you kind of already had an idea of what you wanted to do around pickleball, and when you met Craig and kind of
No.
so how did this evolve?
No, you
Why
can.
did you
Craig.
decide to do this movie?
Thank Craig for this story. I just had money, and I was working at the time in like development, and people were interested in doing something in the space of pickleball. So it was kind of easy to convince people to do something about pickleball, but I didn't know what the story was going to be exactly. And that's kind of where the development money came in. It's just a small amount of money to go and sort of, I don't know, enter the world, meet some people, shoot a sizzle reel, and come up with a proof of concept to hopefully get fully financed later on. And then, so through all of that, I met Craig. He wrote one of the first, he wrote a Vanity Fair article about pickleball and kind of the professional circuit, the celebrities who were playing, you know, how at the time it really wasn't being capitalized on yet, but it was so popular. So that it was kind of this unique moment before the big sort of the big meteoric spike happened. But when I met Craig and he interviewed me for his article, just because I was, you know, I was the first person, I think, really to get some money and to do, you know, a substantial documentary project with an esteemed sort of, you know, backing. So I met Craig, and he kind of knew this insider story about professional pickleball. I wasn't even I didn't even know there was professional pickleball. And he just kind of said, you know, I've been in this world. I've met all these people. I have like a year's worth of sort of notes and research, and I know everybody. And he really, really convinced me that was, I'll let him elaborate on it, but he's the one who should take credit for the subject matter, or the story, if you will, that we cover in the film.
So, Craig,
Yeah.
how did you originally get access
Sorry-
to all of
sorry to
these
put you on the
people?
spot.
Yeah.
Well, I had used the Vanity Fair piece, I hope not duplicitously, but I used it to gain access into this world that I just wanted to understand. I loved the sport. The sport was purportedly at about 3 million players at the time, and already the fastest growing sport in America, but there were no brands associated with it. Like, it was just very confounding to me, like, and very unusual in modern America to have something that had reached I would argue, critical mass already, that did not seem to be monetized, did not seem to have brands behind it, accelerating that growth to some sort of capitalistic end. And that was really peculiar to me. And so I just wanted to understand, and it was this riddle I just wanted to solve. And I didn't know any of these people in this world, but I recognized that if I wrote this piece for Vanity Fair, people would talk to me, and I tried to talk to everyone because I just wanted to understand. And in that, I also don't have social media, so I had a fake Facebook account that I had made in like 2006 or 7, because I think I needed it to get Spotify or something. And it's got like a ridiculous name, and I don't have any friends, and it's like the profile picture is like Winston Churchill, like a cartoon of Winston Churchill. And I would like I messaged like Tyson and Ben and some people, and I was like, hey, my name's actually Craig. I'm writing an article for Vanity Fair. You know, can we talk? And you know, I did the same thing with Selkirk guys, and you know, Ben. You know, he introduced me, Steve. I just wanted to sort of know this world, and it was like kind of this fiefdom at the time. You know, these little fiefs, and they had their little communities, and everyone was really great and welcoming. And I had a pretty comprehensive view, I think, of what was happening in pickleball at that time. And so when Ashley and I met, it was a rather, you know, I suppose, serendipitous meeting in that I said, look, I've looked kind of under every rock in this space, and what I think is really interesting, I don't know where it's going, I don't know how the story is going to unfold, but we have a pro sport being birthed right before our very eyes right now, which doesn't happen very often. And concurrently, there are multiple leagues trying to get off the ground at the same time. So there's got to be something weird's got to happen there. And I met Steve in the course of my research. Had a good relationship with him. Called him, I remember, from a hospital in Maine, and I was like, hey, I know the first MLP event's going to be in November. Is there any chance that you would welcome a film crew there? And he was really great. And we filmed at that first MLP in Dreamland in November of 21. Ashley and some folks from LA came out, and yeah, I think she just really got it. She's got a great sense for characters. Ashley does. And there's some great characters in this story, in this world, in addition to the kind of the themes at play. But we initially, and for most of the filming, had really incredible access, and that's thanks to Steve and Tom Dundon and Tyson, and all sorts of folks were really incredible. But there was a remarkable shift from showing up at that first MLP when people, and the Vanity Fair article had just coincidentally come out about a couple weeks earlier, and people were really appreciative. Not that I did it, I deserve no credit for it. I didn't do it for any altruistic reason at all, but there's no charity behind it. But people in the sport felt a little, and again, I love the sport, and people in the sport felt at that time a little ridiculed, a little bit like the butt of the joke. No one was taking, people didn't take the sport seriously. People definitely didn't take pro pickleball seriously. Yeah. So they felt maybe legitimized in some way by having this article in a major publication. And we're really appreciative, which was really sweet. And I loved hearing that, and they were so welcoming. And it was interesting to see them go from being like the butt of the joke to the cool kid in class over the next couple of years. As we were very fortunate in our timing, because it did transcend in the time that we were filming, and there was monstrous transition that occurred, and that we were very lucky to catch.
Yeah, as I was watching it, it was so fun to be able to point out all of the professional players, that I've seen on Instagram and in social media and everything, and to kind of be able to see their insight and the behind the scenes that's going on at the tournaments. As you were interacting with all of these professional players, what was some of their reactions to the documentary that you're filming?
There were certain players who were champions for us, almost producers, like really helping us in a way, like Ryan Sherry, who is such a lovable guy and has a reputation in the professional pickleball world of being somebody who's just really trying to help the sport grow without any personal interest necessarily. He's just doing it for the greater good, and he's somebody who's loved by everybody, and equally was not only like a great participant in the film and a great character who provides a lot of comedy and a lot of heart to the film. He was just somebody who was very helpful. He helped us get access to other people. He helped convince other players that they should participate. I don't even know if we could have finished this documentary without Ryan Sherry. He was like that, and just so some people were just lovely like that, and very, very open, very helpful. And then, somebody like Tyson, a real extrovert, very fun to have on camera. Obviously a great story because he has a wife and kids, and they're on the road, and he's coming into the sport like later, and and hoping that he can sort of capitalize on the money that is there to be made in the future. But we kind of watched that. His story arc was very interesting to follow. They were pretty great with us in terms of access. Ben John, surprisingly, was just like very, gave us great access. He's kind of a no drama person. I mean, I would text Ben and he would just be like, yeah, when and where, and then he would just show up. Like, it was so simple. Tom Dundon, equally, who is sort of like kind of a business version maybe of a Ben Johns, just like always cool headed, like not super emotional, kind of good poker face. He was also, it was hard for us to get an interview with him, but when he finally agreed to it, like setting up the actual interview and the logistics of everything, like it was just super easy. So I was like, oh, that's interesting that these two sort of personalities that don't really give you very much, it's hard to gauge what they're feeling, or, how they might receive something, or, couldn't have been sort of more simple to deal with. Annalie Waters became somebody who, I mean, that family was friendly, but she became, she was somebody who we lost access to a little bit, not entirely, but it changed a lot from when we started filming to 2 years later. You know, she had an agent, she was a brand, she was this like behemoth. She was just in a totally different orbit from when we started to later on. So Paris Todd, very, you know, obviously like a very, you know, cool story in terms of like for women or standing up for women or women in sports. Great parents who were kind of more willing to talk because they don't have a contract with the league, so they can give their opinion about anything. And Paris obviously is a little bit more buttoned up and, you know, very serious athlete. I'm probably rambling, but you know, those are just some main. Yeah.
And there are also like there are great characters in this space, and there are also really smart people in this space, and people who I wish we could use who had an unbelievable insight. Irina, extremely smart.
Leah Jansen. I mean,
Jansen.
that was one of the best interviews we got. Matt Manassi, very articulate and knowledgeable too.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also funny that I still think, and if I watch the film or when I reflect on it, I'm like, I can't believe Julio and Steve let us film that day.
I mean, that was so behind the scenes. Like, that was just amazing to see them on the calls, like talking to different players. I don't know who else they were talking to, but like like to pull back the curtain on that day was just fascinating.
I mean, Julio has a bit of a documentary background and really gets. I mean, they were amazing. Julio and Steve and Tom, like Ashley said, we had to work to get him to appear on camera, that's just not his thing. So totally understandable. But you know, amazing about letting us film at the PPA. Rob Nunnery, also extremely bright, really good perspective and insightful.
But Lee Whitwell has been on the show. She's one of our favorites, and she was fantastic.
Lee was so great. She had this great line in the film. She was like, "Oh, the sports and its terrible twos." Like she would always just come out with these witty, funny one-liners that would just really sort of sum up everything. And we went to her home in Florida. We met her partner, and you know, we filmed with her riding around the villages on a motor scooter. She's really fun. Yeah, she's great.
So I didn't mean to interrupt you, Craig.
No. I'm glad you did. It saved everyone listening to this from me.
Well, you know, it just amazes me that, you know, you talk about, you know, having access to Tom Dundon and, you know, Steve Kuhn. These guys are billionaires that are running these competing leagues, and to actually have them just say, okay, let's talk about where we stand on this, and to see the arc of where they were at the beginning of this, where they were kind of in the middle of this, and where it kind of ended up was just amazing to see.
I mean, I want to say this because we did King of the Court, and this came up on that show. And those guys are obviously very different, and they have similarities. Obviously, they're both wealthy. They're both incredibly smart. Something else that I don't think people necessarily recognize or appreciate that they have in common is I believe they both love pickleball. And obviously, no one questions about Steve, but Tom does as well. And I had lunch with Tom prior to us making this documentary because someone had just connected us and, you know, for chat about pickleball. I was shocked. I was shocked at how much he knew about the game, the players, their different styles, how they were performing, etc. Like these guys, yeah, you're absolutely right that it is kind of crazy when you think about all that must be on their plate, their portfolios, that they were so accessible. They give us so much time, and it is like that. That is kind of wild, but I think it really speaks to how much they both care about the sport and about their, of course, respective entities within it. Those guys, they weren't passive investors in any capacity. Tom's a little more aloof, but they both care.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this kind of might be the reason why people are saying that this documentary kind of shows the seriousness behind pickleball because, you know, when it was first getting popular, I think it did kind of get that rap of being like, oh, it's just a silly, fun sport. But after seeing this documentary, you really see the passion that goes into it, the amount of money and the amount of growth that's happened over the last few years.
Yeah, I wish it retained some of its silliness and fun. I think the MLP has done a pretty good job of
Yeah, that's true.
vintizing the tournaments and making them fun. And I had,
Yeah.
conversations with Steve about that of like, hey, you guys get to make the rules, right? Like, obviously we have precedents or protocols that were established by legacy sports, or tennis being the obvious one. But I wish, I hope as it moves forward, however, whatever happens, that it differentiates itself from some other major professional sports and retains some whimsy, some fun, some irreverence, something, you guys taking shots on the show. I hope people don't stop drinking on the court, even at the highest levels.
Well, to that point of, being different than other professional sports, like Bridgie and I played in PPA events, right? We played in tournaments, and you bring this up in the documentary that where else do you get to play in a tournament and right next to you is Anna Bright or Anna Lee Waters? Like, I remember Bridgie and I were playing and a ball bounced onto our court during point. I had to go pick it up, right? We had to go ball on, go pick it up, and I went to go throw it back to whoever was next to me. And I go, oh my gosh, that's Anna Bright. Right, throwing the ball, and she's right on the court next to us. I'm like, you don't get to play baseball next to Barry Bonds. You don't get to play, right? It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, like, there's no segregation, right? Like, you go to Wimbledon or the U.S. Open, you are obviously in the same space. You're not only not playing, you don't even get within. You're not even that proximate to them, really. Like, it's unequaled in that sense of you're just, like people at the U.S. Open, like Andre Agassi was there last week or the week before, just like he's a pickleball player now, so that means he's in the masses, like, and like that's, you're right. Will that change? Probably, but
I hope not.
There's nothing. There's nothing like it in the sports world. It's truly unique in that respect.
Yeah. So I'm curious from both of you, because as I was watching this documentary, I found myself kind of like teetering back and forth, like, or felt like maybe like, just, do I need to choose a side? Like, am I team MLP or am I team PPA? Did you two find yourself kind of going back and forth, or because you were, the directors and producers, were you kind of removed from that and just putting it out there for us to kind of see the behind the scenes?
I don't know. I feel like we tried really, really hard, and it was hard because I guess if I'm honest, there were probably times where I was, rooting for one over the other. But, always keeping in mind, and Craig was really good about this because the tone of the film and wanting to be fair was always an objective that we had. And that was kind of like, I don't know, like that was our North Star. So we were always going to aim for that, which was definitely hard to do at times. But I think we were always trying to, and we had a lot of discussions about it as the story kind of evolved. And there were different, it's like chess moves, you're watching this kind of strategic, sort of, I don't know, game being played out, not just on the court, but like behind the scenes with the, executives or the investors. So I think, yeah, the human side of it's human nature. Like, I'm sure, we were probably rooting for one or the other at certain times, but I think always knowing that we were going to present both sides or both aspects of the story.
Yeah, I think something that that initially bonded Ashley and myself, as she did it. She's the one who invited me in and she gave me this opportunity. Was we were really aligned on a few things. we had no idea what obviously was going to happen. Trying to tell a story and capture a story unfolding in real time is something I don't ever want to do again. But we were really, the tone of the film. I think we were and remained in lockstep. And another was this. The outcome we wanted to have, and I'd love hearing you say that, Brigie, is we always said we want two people to be able to sit down on the couch, watch this film, credits roll, and both of them have completely different opinion about what happened.
Yeah.
Because it was really important for us to try to not tell people what to think or to play the morality police or pick a side. And like Ashley said, obviously it's human nature to feel different things at different times, but it was really important to us to not pick a side between the two and neither condemn nor condone the influx of capital. Like a lot of documentaries are made about how and why capitalism is bad, and I'm not saying those aren't valid or whatever, but and a lot of people in the pickleball space are like, oh, it's ruining the sport, it's ruining the soul of the sport, it's corrupting pickleball. And there's can be validity to those arguments, but there's also validity to the fact that Tyson has 4 kids and he can feed his family now by being a professional pickleball player, thanks to all the money that's come into the sport. It's changed people's lives. It's given them a livelihood that was inconceivable in 3 years ago. And that's an amazing thing. And we didn't want to say that was a good thing or a bad thing. We just wanted to present it as objectively as possible. So I appreciate you saying that's one of the, to me, one of the compliments anyone can give the film.
Yeah, it's really cool that both of us kind of had that same thing. Before you guys came on, we were having that discussion, just the two of us off recording. We were like, gosh, we see both sides of this. For the people that, are going to watch this movie, kind of talk a little bit about, like, when did you start recording? When did you end recording? And give a quick summary on, like, the evolution of what you're covering during the movie.
Yeah, we started filming in November 2021 at the inaugural MLP tournament. Then we had to, cut a sizzle reel, get funded. And then that took almost, I would say, almost a year. I feel like it took a really long time.
Well, yeah.
Take that proof of concept, take it to a financier or financiers, and pitch it and get somebody to fund it. And then by that point, we're back there, we're filming, we're staffed up. And then, a lot had even changed in that 1 year. I mean, pickleball was kind of moving at lightning speed. So, we were trying to emphasize, even when we were trying to get funding, like, hey, this is all changing really fast. Like, we want to capture the birth of this, and like, if we wait any longer, like, I don't know, we're going to have a 2-year-old and we missed the, we missed the first 2 years. Like, let's speed things up. So we went from the inaugural MLP. I would say the next maybe big marker in the sport that we captured was the day that LeBron James bought a team, and you had this influx of celebrity investors like Tom Brady and I don't know, and then Vibe, which is a really fun counter sort of league to the Major League Pickleball. I mean, to me, that was like, I was like, oh my gosh, if there was a show for like the world's, pettiest argument, like this, this, it was just really amusing to me. And I thought only in pickleball, like, is this kind of thing happening, which is fun to capture, it's very unique to pickleball. And so, and then there's a clear winner. Like, that's the other thing, I guess, that I wanted. When you talk about like rooting for one side or the other, I mean, I was rooting for my film to have a beginning, middle, and end, and a story arc that has a very satisfying ending, so that you can.
Which we actually thought we had the only thing that we had resigned to, because Ashley's unwillingness to let this project die at so many, and I'm pretty disinclined to admit defeat, but it was an incredible thing to witness Ashley bringing this thing to life and seeing it through. And the one thing that I think we had resigned to is like, we're going to have a really open ending, because we don't know what's going to happen with pro pickleball, and we just have to find some way to make that satisfying and gratifying and for the viewer. And we ran out of money. And again, Ashley's, unwillingness to not do what was best for the film somehow got the Dundon interview and allowed us to film. We don't know what's happening with pro pickleball, but we were able to, very fortunately, at least get to the end of a chapter. And Ashley made sure that we did, and got to film with Tom when we were out of money. And so sorry to interrupt you, Ashley. I just wanted to give you credit for, we thought we were done filming, and we thought we were going to have to end the film with, like, I don't know how, but with like a shrug, like, who knows what's going to happen. But after what did happen, Ashley found a way to capture that and to end our film with it.
Well, thank you, Ashley, for doing that. And if we can only have one request, sequel. Like we got to find the funding. Let's do a sequel, because there's so much more to the story since then.
I know. Every time I go to memes of pickleball, it makes me like,
that's my favorite.
Yeah, we should do another one.
We really followed that account during production. It really made us laugh. We just thought, I don't know who's behind it or not, but it's pretty brilliant.
Well, what I think is pretty neat, though, too, is that this is really kind of taking a snapshot of where pickleball is at now. And I'm looking forward to maybe like in 5, maybe 20 years, looking back at this and kind of seeing the progress or where we've gone with the sport since then. So, I thank you too so much for coming onto the show and talking about this, and also sharing all of your findings with the world.
Yeah, thanks for having us on. This is really fun.
Yeah, thanks.
Tell everybody how they can watch Dreambreaker.
Right now it's streaming on Max, and also we have a deal with Roku. It's not out yet, so TBD when that release date is, but that will be the director's cut of the film. So that's the full version, and that will I don't know. There will be a press release, I'm sure, but Max and then Roku in the near future.
Well, let's finish this with our third shot. Dedicated to Dreambreaker, a pickleball story. You guys made a fantastic movie. Thank you so much for that.
Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thank you again for joining us. We had a great time talking to you. Hopefully we can do it again. We would love to have you back, because there's literally I have pages of questions that I did not get to because we ran out of time, but I would love to have an opportunity to talk to both of you again.
Yeah.
It's really nice to chat with people who understand the sport and have followed it, and it's been really fun. So yeah, would love to keep the conversation going.
I mean, candidly, Brigie and I are kind of in the industry, right? We talk about pickleball every week. We talk to pros, we talk to just different people in the industry, and your movie, your doc, taught us things that we did not know that was going on behind the scenes. Like, we hear things, we read things, like we're doing our research and stuff, but your movie opened things up that we did not know about. And thank you again for doing that movie. It's amazing.
Okay, I love to hear that.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys. I really, really appreciate the support and the kind words. Thank you.
Yeah.
And for all of you listening, thank you for joining us on Third Shot, where Brigie and I would continue to share our pickleball journey. A real special thanks to Ashley and Craig for joining us. Please go check out Dreambreaker. You can see it streaming on Max right now. And you can support this show by subscribing, and we promise to have more amazing guests just like Ashley and Craig on future episodes of Third Shot Podcast. Let's continue to share our enjoyment for the game and grow this pickleball community together. See you next time on Third Shot Podcast.